In the heart of a frostbitten Russian military outpost, nestled deep within the Ural Mountains where the wind howled like a vengeful spirit and snow buried secrets older than the Soviet Union itself, Private Dmitry Volkov, a weary young conscript with a penchant for trouble and a mouth that ran faster than his brain, found himself in the mess hall one frigid evening, his breath fogging in the dim light of flickering bulbs as he shoveled watery barge into his mouth, surrounded by a ragtag crew of soldiers who were more exhausted than disciplined. Their faces etched with the kind of weariness that comes from endless drills, and they were present spectre of war. Dmitry, barely 20, had been stationed at this desolate base for only 3 months, yet his brash attitude had already earned him a reputation as the outpost's resident loudmouth, a man who would rather spit insults than salute, and tonight, emboldened by a smuggled flask of vodka burning in his gut, he was in rare form, his voice cutting through the low hum of conversation as he mocked his comrades' stories of home, their accents, their very existence, until his eyes landed on a figure standing quietly at the edge of the hall, cloaked in a heavy greatcoat that obscured their form, the collar turned up against the cold, and something about the stranger stillness, perhaps the way they stood, unwavering, like a statue carved from the ice outside, irritated Dmitry to his core, so he slammed his spoon down, the metal clanging against the tin bowl, and bellowed, "Get out, woman!" His words dripping with scorn, assuming the figure's slight from and the faintest glimpse of a bright beneath the cap marked them as some lowly kitchen worker or, worse, a civilian would wandered where they didn't belong, and the room fell silent. The other soldiers exchanging glances, some smirking, others pulling, because they knew something Dmitry didn't. The figure wasn't a cook, wasn't a civilian, wasn't even a low-ranking officer, but General Anastasia Petrova, a legend whispered about in barracks from Moscow to Vladivostok, a woman who would racing through the ranks with a ferocity that left men trembling. Her name synonymous with ruthless strategy and an iron will that had crushed emergencies and silenced doctors. Her presence at this remote base unannounced, a surprised inspection meant to root out weaknesses, and now, as such it turned slowly, her piercing grey eyes looking onto Dmitry's, the air seemed to thicken, the temperature dropping further as if the room itself sensed the storm about to break. Dmitry, oblivious to the danger, doubled down, sneering, "What, Divtoa? I said get out." His voice cracking slightly as the vodka's carriage began to waver, and Petrova, without a word, stepped forward. Her boots echoing on the concrete floor, each deliberate, predatory, until SH stood mere inches from him, her face a mask of calm that was somehow more terrifying than any rush, and when SH finally spoke, her voice was low, almost a whisper, yet it carried the weight of a guillotine. "Private Volkov, you will address him as General Petrova, and you will learn respect, or I will teach it to you," and Dmitry's smirk vanished, his face draining of color as the realization hit, the name sinking into his vodka-alt brain like a bayonet, because General Petrova wasn't just any officer. SH was the architect of the Siberian offensive, a campaign so brutal it was said she walked through battlefields unscathed while men fell like wheat around her, and now, here SH was, in this godforsaken outpost, her presence a death sentence for his insolence. The other soldiers backed away, some muttering prayers, others staring at the floor, knowing Dmitry's fate was sealed, but Petrova didn't raise her voice, didn't need to, as SH ordered him to stand. Her words listened through the silence, and Dmitry, legs trembling, albeit, his bravado crumbling like the snow outside, and SH continued, her tone never wavering, "You will report to the training yard at 0400 Horace, in full gear, for disciplinary measures," and to SH didn't specify what those measures were. The rumors of her methods, grueling marches through blizzards, solitary confinement in the old bunkers, or worse, assignments to the most dangerous fronts, hung over Dmitry like a noose, and as SH turned to leave, her greatcoat swirling like a dark spectre, SH paused, glancing back with a look that promised not just punishment but obliteration, and Dmitry, now sober in every sense, felt his knees buckle, the weight of his mystic crushing him as surely as the mountains outside. The next morning, at 0400, the yard was a frozen hell, the wind cutting through Dmitry's gear as he stood alone, his comrades watching from the barracks, their faces pressed to frosted windows, and Petrova was stirred, not in her greatcoat but in full dress uniform, her middle glinting under the floodlights, a reminder of her authority, her power, and SH didn't speak, didn't need to, as it gestured to a pile of equipment, shovels, sandbags, and a map marked with a route through the mountains. But no sun soldier would take in winter, and Dmitri understood this was no ordinary punishment. This was a test, one he might not survive, and as he began the march, the snow swallowing his boots, the cold seeping into his bones, he heard her voice again, not shouting, not cruel, but steady, relentless as, "You will learn, private, or you will break," and for Horace, 10 days, he marched, dug trenches, carried impossible loads, his body screaming, his mind unraveling, the mountains indifferent to his suffering, and Petrova was always there, watching, her prisoners a constant reminder that this was her world, her rules, and he was nothing but a speck of defiance as he would either mold or crush. By the third day, Dmitri was delirious, frostbite creeping into his fingers, his thoughts a jumble of fear and regret, yet something shifted, he began to see her not as a monster but as a force, a leader who demanded excellence because she had driven it herself, and when he finally collapsed, his body driving out under a light of sandbags, as he was there, kneeling beside him, her blood visible in the air, and as he said, "You're not done, Volkov, but you're learning," and for the first time, he saw not just the general but the woman, her eyes holding not cruelty but expectation, and in that moment, he wanted to be better, not for himself but for her, for the idealist he represented, and when he staggered to his fate, he nodded, just honest, and turned away, leaving him to continue. Weeks later, the outpost had changed, Dmitri had changed, he was quieter, sharper, his insolence replaced by a grudging respect that spread through the ranks, and Petrova, her inspection compelled, left as silently as she had arrived, but her shadow lingered, a reminder that power wasn't in shouts or fists but in the quiet certainty of someone who would face it worse than you and won, and Dmitri, now a model soldier, carried her words like a scar, a lesson etched into his soul, knowing his end hadn't been death but transformation, a rebirth forged in the crucible of her will, and to had never forged the terror of that first night, had also never forged the strength she had awakened in him, a strength that would carry him through the wars to come, a strength that made him, in his own small way, a soldier worthy of her army.